Okay, here we are with another inspired podcast of Good Fat Life. And I am so excited about my guest this week, Dr. Shawne Duperon. And
Yay, happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad. And I have this beautiful picture of you gracing one of our issues of Good Fat Life. And it was an incredible story about forgiveness in the workplace. And we're going to talk about that.
Yay. And it feels so good to be together, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, like, it just feels good.
Yeah, that's right. Because when we had our conversations earlier, we were on Zoom.
Yeah.
Right? So here we are in the studio, and
Life is good.
so welcome. And I just have to say, there's been so many really cool things happening with Good Fat Life this past week, and what's coming up with our workshops and our new issue of the magazine. And you can find all of that on goodfatlife.com. But there's also been a lot of conversation where this is why I'm so excited that Dr. Shawn is here. And let me just brag on her for a moment.
Please do. I love bragging.
She's a 6-time Emmy Award winner and a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, right, for Project Forgive. And she'll talk a little bit more about that, among many other things. But yeah, deep breath. But what accomplishments. They're just really big deals. And the reason that one of the reasons, well, there's many, but one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you with us on the show today is because I'm seeing, as we're coming out of COVID, I'm seeing there's a lot of angst, right? Yep. And what I'm particularly wanting to focus on is kind of guilt and shame around our bodies.
Yeah.
And the weight many of us have gained. And we got to cut that crap out.
Yeah. And be gentler with ourselves because, oh my gosh, so much is going on in the world. I don't know about everyone else. I imagine everyone listening in struggling with this is not a political show, so that's not what I'm trying to say. Struggling with the politics, with COVID, with all the changes, Supreme Court stuff. Our world is in topsy-turvy, and what a lot of us do is we shovel food down our mouths to self-soothe, and then we go in this cycle of shame and blame and, oh, look what I did, and how do we stop that?
Exactly. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because I know that you have your PhD in communications and gossip.
Yep.
And a lot of that, from what I know of you, is how we talk to ourselves.
Absolutely. And usually when people hear gossip, they automatically think mean and nasty and gross. Well, I'm going to do an oxymoron and a little bit of education. Gossip theory. There's about 100 of us in the world. When you think gossip, you think mean and nasty, but that's not what the research shows at all. That bad gossip is only about 5 to 7% of gossip talk. And we remember it more. So there's many reasons why we remember it. And actually, the bottom line is we're really good people. And that's how we made forgiveness go viral, is using gossip theory. So we're going to apply some gossip theory today and how we talk to ourselves, how we perceive things. It would be the same place I'd put good fat, because good fat, you just go, wait a minute.
Oh, right,
good fat,
right.
It is an oxymoron.
Right.
And if you're not educated or have enough critical thinking skills around it, you have a hard time thinking that fat could be good, just like you have a hard time thinking that gossip could be good. There's many pieces and phases in our life. In forgiveness, we usually think forgive and forget. Baloney. Right. And alluding to Johnny talking about his bologna sandwich with mustard on it, okay? If you come from the era where we had fried bologna sandwiches, right, with ketchup.
Right.
And that gossip is around how we talk to ourselves is critical.
It is. And I have learned so much from you just going through these kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
Right. And so I really want to share some tools and some techniques around how we're kinder to ourselves.
Yes.
And forgive ourselves, because we hear so much about forgiving others, but I would just really like to focus today on how we forgive ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the muscle to build, because the better you are, and I am and you are, with forgiving ourselves, the more capacity we have to forgive others. There's also a piece that goes with it. It's boundary setting, because it's not about being a doormat. People usually think, oh, I'll forgive and forget. Oh, please. No, your child gets murdered. You're not going to forgive and forget that.
Right.
You get breast cancer and you're mad at your deity. whatever that may be, or however you see God, a la Buddha. That's a process. And that's where we want to play. How do we forgive ourselves?
How do we forgive ourselves? And then, so before we get there, just tell us a little bit about Project Forgive and all that you've been through with that, because it's such a great story.
Yes, I love Project Forgive, and people can check it out on Facebook. That's where our pride and joy and where all our engagement is Project Forgive on Facebook. And it started off with a little video. In Good Gossip Theory, a video about a man who lost his wife and his 2 children to a drunk driver. And the aha of the story was, my family knows this family really well. It happened here locally in Michigan. And his name is Gary Weinstein, and his wife Judy and 2 kids were hit by a drunk driver. And midday, we know, my kids babysat his kids. The man who hit them, also a dear family friend.
Wow.
And actually, his family was flying in. The man, his name is Tom Wellinger. The family was flying in the next day to do an intervention on his alcoholism, and they were a day late. And talk about forgiveness and watching Gary go through the process of forgiveness, because forgiveness is a process, and embracing what's happened to him and for him. He would say to this day, it happened for me. Who am I going to be in this matter? And actually creating this conversation of what real forgiveness is. And we did a little video, and it went viral. And I'm like, dang, people really, really do need to talk about authentic forgiveness, because that forgive and forget stuff, it just doesn't work. It's not real, especially when you're dealing with politics and families and COVID and disruptions and discrepancies in how you see and believe things. How do you navigate that? How do you be an extraordinary person and be your loving, amazing self when you just want to kill the person sitting in front of you? Like, that's a journey, right? And so it started with that story with Gary, and we're close to finishing a documentary. It's been put off by COVID, been put off by so many things. And it's an authentic conversation that forgiveness is as distinct and different as a fingerprint on how you forgive. There's some basic tenets to it, but it's a personal loving journey of self-discovery. And that's what Project Forgive really is about in education.
That is fascinating. So there's 2 things that are popping up. Is I've never heard that it was as personal as your fingerprint, right?
Yes.
So that's fascinating. And the second thing is watching your work and through Project Forgive and your relationship with Tom, it brings up that we're not all good or all bad.
No.
Right? So we can do things that have huge ramifications and still be a good person.
Yes.
Or we can be, horrible in some ways and good in other ways.
Yes.
It's just, we see that when we see evidence of that all the time. And I find it can be unsettling with how we process that.
Yes, absolutely. And that can be applied to our own self-forgiveness, especially around our weight. I love talking about weight and forgiveness.
Okay.
A lifelong struggle with weight. My whole life. I know you can relate.
Right,
I know many people listening can too. And one of the misnomers or myths about weight loss in particular is getting on the scale. And like, you get on the scale. I weighed myself today, 187 pounds, okay? 5 years ago, I never would have been able to tell you that. Okay, 6 months ago, I was 206, okay? So 187 in my world is awesome. I want to get down to 165. The distinction, though, of self-forgiveness is allowing myself to be uncomfortable weighing myself every day. All the research points to weigh yourself daily, because our weight is never going to stay the same. It has to do with how much salt you ate the day before, how much water you're drinking. You want to look at trends. And when you start adjusting your mindset around your weight and being present to how much you weigh and allowing all that shame to come up, because I can tell you, I've had so many battles with a scale. I remember even at times like writing 165 on a piece of paper and putting it on the scale. So I'd stand on it and I'd pretend I was 165. Okay.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I get it. Right?
Yeah. Reality is okay to know. And I can forgive myself for not being at 165 pounds, right? So what did I eat this morning? I ate a good fat bar, right? We're getting ready to go out to lunch. I keep track of what I eat. I'm not like a banshee on it. I'm just getting so good at being normal and authentic around what I really do weigh. And can I love myself? And one of my mantras for self-forgiveness is, okay, Dr. Shawn, can you forgive yourself for not forgiving yourself? It's kind of like barnacles on a boat. They get so stuck, and we get in these neurological pathways that keep us in this place that we have a hard time. You and I were talking about Chernobyl in the kitchen. Like, I got an issue with my husband in the kitchen. Like, it just triggers everything. And starting to unpack and noticing your own personal triggers and start forgiving yourself for not doing it perfect, for being scared to go on the scale or avoiding the scale altogether. And research after research after research shows you weigh yourself daily, you can get acquainted, acclimated, and start loving yourself for the weight you are exactly at this moment. I've never felt more beautiful, more sexy. I'm 58 years old. I'm a hottie at 187 pounds. Okay.
I love it. I love it. So, I mean, gosh, well, I had somebody say to me the other day, "You are worth your weight in gold." And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I know what I weigh. So I'm pretty valuable, right? It was just a cute little reminder that, yeah, there's another side to this, right?
Yeah.
Another story to this.
You know, there's another piece that I want to add. Working as an academic, and communication is my forte. One of my passions is being a feminist rhetoric and looking at feminist rhetoric, being feminist rhetorician. And it is a mouthful. And when I think about my focus on my weight, my body, how big my butt is, for decades, that was actually me buying into misogyny to keep me busy about my sexuality, how I looked as a woman. It kept me very busy from doing the real work that I wanted to do. Because when you're in that mindset, it keeps you busy. Just like you smoke cigarettes, you think about how often you get to smoke, when do you get to smoke again, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with your body weight and your food and do the clothes fit. It's a full-time frickin' job. Wow. And can you imagine what you can do when you can forgive yourself for focusing there? Because we've been trained since birth to do that as women, because our value is in our sexuality, our value is in our beauty, our value in how we look. And that's so changing now, which I just love watching that change and seeing like the yoga lady who weighs 300 pounds doing yoga impeccably. Like, you go, girl, you are a hottie. And not to say that that's healthy. I'm not saying that at all. And love the body you're in, really.
Well, but there's so much research around that. Last week we were talking about BMI.
Yeah.
Right? And how that started in the 1830s. That's what we're basing our BMIs on, right? Wow. It's for men in the Scandinavia.
Yeah.
But the point is there's so much research around that says that you can be heavier, you can be classified obese on the charts and have really healthy numbers and be really healthy.
Yes.
And you can be classified as, perfect body fat in the charts and be sick when you look at the numbers. So we're just getting, to your point, we're understanding better what's really true.
Yeah, I love that.
And giving ourselves permission to ask those questions. And that information's available.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So what would you, my brain goes in a million directions sometimes. And so I would say, what would you say to listeners to where to start to forgive yourself?
Well, I love the mantra, I forgive myself for not forgiving myself. I'm going to just say, go for it and get on the scale. You don't even have to count calories, whatever. 2 things to do. Weigh yourself daily at the same time, right when you get up. Just weigh yourself. Just be conscious of what you weigh and start playing the game. I love the weight that I'm at. I know it's a fake it till you make it, because the only way you can find joy and peace is to accept where you are. And if you can't say I love where I'm at right now, you can say I accept where I'm at. And someone who really influenced me in my whole journey for the last 30 years around staying in addiction is a strong word, but I'm going to use that word because it's fast. Addiction with food, obsessing about it, just like you would a cigarette. Okay, I'm a former smoker, so I so get that conversation. One of the resources that deeply helped me, because I do believe it's an unpacking process. Like we were talking about our Chernobyl in the kitchen. Me and my husband had this big contention in the kitchen for many reasons. It's our Chernobyl. It's like where all the triggers happen, all the upset happens. When you start unpacking, you start seeing it has nothing to do with the kitchen. Okay?
Right.
And the same is true with food and weight. It has nothing to do with food and weight. It's just a focal point, and it's actually a trap. And when we can start unpacking and looking, and one of those resources for me is a woman named Janine Roth. I don't know if you know Janine.
No, Janine Roth?
Janine
No.
Roth. I read her first book called When Food is Love. When
Okay.
Food is Love. And all the unpacking I've done around food to get me where I am today, food was my soothing. Food was my way to connect. You know, I'm not dissing my parents. I grew up in a
Right.
rough, you know, I'm an incest survivor. I share it very openly. And I did not grow up in the ideal situation. As a 58-year-old grandmother, I can't blame my parents anymore. I couldn't even blame them at 18 anymore. I didn't learn these skills, and now it's up to me to learn them ever since I
Right.
became an adult. And one of those resources is Janine Roth. I don't get paid to tell about her. I just
Right.
think she's phenomenal. And she doesn't even believe in calorie counting or any of that. It's just about being present in the moment when you're eating, when you're putting water in your body. You know, I have this habit of 8 glasses of water a day. I really do. And I've gotten used to peeing all the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Because that was always my like, oh, I don't want to have to go to the bathroom all the time. You know. Blah.
Right.
Oh my gosh, the energy I have. Just that
Around that,
water
right.
and the weight every day. And looking at, you know, you and I were talking about this before we came to the podcast. The last 6 months of my life have been outrageous, just outrageous. And I've been through
Right.
some crap. I know you've been through some crap. I know people listening have been through crap.
I mean,
okay?
you can't be alive today and not have.
Oh my
been
gosh.
through crap,
Oh my
right?
gosh. You know, and I thought the worst of
Right.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Just before COVID hit, I lost my mom, my dad, and my sister to 3 different cancers right in succession. I thought that was the epitome of the worst that could possibly happen, right?
Who knows,
Right? I'm just looking, I have permission to talk about this. I'm watching my daughter just move from Florida to Michigan. Her husband left her, had an affair. She was pregnant in a high-risk pregnancy with 2 other kids. I jumped right in to help her as a single mother. Very stressful. The miracle of the last 6 months of my life is I have enough habits now that I didn't overeat to emotionally eat. I ate what I wanted. I said my only goal, drink water, weigh myself, just stay constantly present.
Awesome.
And actually it makes me,
Right.
moves me, Sherri. I've never been able to do that in my 58 years. And progress, not perfection. Progress,
Yeah.
not perfection.
Oh,
Yeah.
Can we just take a moment and celebrate that?
Yeah.
Just celebrate
I
that,
know,
right?
I
Because
know.
it's a really big deal.
It is a big deal.
And
It is.
I see how much energy, to your point earlier, is lost. You think of all the years, I'll speak for myself,
Yeah.
all the years where I spent that energy on, you know, that my legs were too heavy,
Yes.
that I could have been doing the work that I totally love.
Yes.
Or I was frustrated with myself, and so I didn't communicate how much I appreciated and loved the people that were around me
Yes.
because I couldn't be present
Yes.
with that.
It takes up a lot of space in your brain,
Yeah.
doesn't it? You know, and I think about my mom. My mother was stunningly beautiful, had a perfect figure. To this day, I would even still say I think she's the most beautiful woman that ever existed.
Oh
She
my
was that
gosh.
beautiful.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, that's where you get your
Yeah,
beauty.
I
Yeah,
do.
right?
I
Yes.
do. Yeah, and I'll receive that. And she was just a stunning woman. And her mantra, though, was hold your stomach in. So I spent from like 10 years old to maybe in my 40s in constant pain in my body, holding my stomach in. Now, there's benefits to that because
Right.
you're
right. Your core.
you know, your
You're building
core.
your core.
But my experience of it was not joy.
Okay.
It was painful. It's like that's something you had to do as a woman that I learned. And let my belly hang out in all its glory, you know? Very different conversation.
Right.
I even do conversations where usually when I'm in the morning when I go to the bathroom, I rub my thighs and say, I love you, my thighs. And I'll rub my belly. I love you, my belly. You nurture me. You help me with my intuition. You give me the best food. You gave me 2 beautiful children that came out of you. And I love you, my belly. It's just little things like that that
But
really
they're
impact.
And they're so powerful because they're so true.
They are.
Right? They're really true. That is, I love that. Right? So one of my very dear friends has a lot of food allergies, and she's rail thin.
Yep.
And you know, as you get older and you get really skinny, it's not that attractive.
Some of us don't have that issue.
Well, I know.
I get it. Yeah.
I don't. And but anyway, so she would give anything. She goes, I just wish I could eat everything the rest of the world does, and if the outcome was I got a big fat butt, yay!
Yes.
Because I could just enjoy think food differently than I do.
Yes.
And I thought that was so profound, because she's like, and all I got was a big fat butt.
Yeah.
She considers that to be, you know, a sign that she gets to fully enjoy the bounty of what life has to offer.
Yes.
So it's perspective in so many ways.
It sure is, isn't it? It sure is.
Yeah, it is. Well, so two things you're saying, those are the recommendations that you have, is weigh yourself every day and drink lots of water.
Drink lots of water. And when you weigh yourself, allow yourself to feel all the feelings that come up. I've gone through love-hate with that scale. I've felt shame, disappointment, could tell when I'm beating myself up. And I've been practicing, I love you scale. Thank you for loving me back. I had to fake it to make it for a long, long time. And forgiving myself for it not being perfect. Because when you're 90 years old, 110 years old, whatever it is, when you're laying on your deathbed, you're not going to say, oh, gosh, I wish I would have been 120 pounds my whole life. You're not going to be saying that. Not even close. It's such bandwidth that you keep in your head that keeps you busy from doing amazing things that you really want to be doing, that your heart's desire is to do, and spending that time worrying about food, thinking about food, all that. Oh, what a waste of energy.
It is. It is a waste. And I remember when Weight Watchers first came out, and my grandma was probably about my size, right?
Yeah.
And she joined Weight Watchers, and she lost 20 pounds, and she was off the flippin' charts, proud of herself.
Yes.
And we're like, where'd our beautiful grandma go?
Yes.
Who is this skinny person?
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I didn't acknowledge, but I didn't have the capacity. I was, young.
Yeah.
But it gives beauty's all in the in the beholder.
Yeah.
And there's that whole thing, how we feel and how we make others feel. And at the end of the day is the joy. Yeah. Right?
It really is. Life is so short. I know we get this as we get older.
Right.
It really is short. You're going to be hit by a bus tomorrow. Do you want your last thought to be like, oh, darn, I can't believe I ate those Reese's peanut butter cups? Right?
Because if you're going to eat them, enjoy them, right? But the point that you make about gratitude, it is it's impossible to be feeling negative when you have those gratitude thoughts.
Yes.
And even if it's just around the scale, that the scale's telling you something.
Yeah. There's something powerful in doing something different and altering your perception and allowing that to come in, because it goes in that forgiveness realm. There's so many researchers that say there's 3 steps to forgiveness. There's 11 steps. Actually, Dr. Wayne Dyer has 11 steps. And with all our work in forgiveness, we boiled it down to 5 to make it really simple.
Okay.
And it's usually, depends upon the offense. Shock, anger, grief, acceptance, peace. Okay? I'll say it again. Shock, anger, grief, acceptance, peace. And when you practice those things, even with the stupid frickin' scale, you're going to have shock sometimes when you get on the scale, like, oh my gosh, I ate so well yesterday, my weight is up 5 pounds. That's normal. Fluctuation is normal. Anger, oh my gosh, I should have done better. Grief, that you can't do better. Acceptance of where you are. And then actual peace. Watching those 5 steps with the scale, especially. And when you start practicing it with the scale, play with the scale. I even did, this is going to be funny too. I actually brought my scale in the bed with me, I don't know, like a year ago. I said, I might as well make the scale my friend. I've made the scale my enemy for 58 years. Why does a number have to be my enemy? And so even me saying 187 pounds, like, no shame, so much freedom. I'm not telling people to go out and tell your boss how much you weigh. I'm not saying that.
Right, I get it.
And
it's But
there's
being
something
able to just say what you weigh.
Yeah, and being with it and sleeping with the darn scale, like I did with the Shawn Cassidy album when I was 13. Okay, the Do Run Run. I'm trying to remember the name of the album. And I used to
Davy Jones.
Was yours Davy Jones? I slept with Shawn Cassidy, the Hardy Boys, and I used to sleep with his album. And that came to me because I was just so angry about getting on the scale. And I said, what can I do to dissolve this Chernobyl with the scale? Like we have Chernobyl in our kitchen, okay?
Right.
And the kitchen stuff is about cleaning and things like that and keeping it clean. And, you know, it's a thing in my marriage that we're working on. And keep unpacking. And after I slept with the scale, that's when I really started to have some breakthroughs. Like, can I love the scale? Like, can I actually get to the place where I love the scale? Can I actually get to the place where I can embrace that fat is good? Can I actually get to the place that I don't have to forgive and forget? Wow, how freeing is that, right? Can I actually get to the place of accepting the apology I'll never receive from someone and do it for myself, which is what we're known for.
Right.
We'll get to that.
Right.
And can I forgive someone and cut them out of my life because they're toxic and they can't hear boundaries? And can I have peace and acceptance? So I just went through an itinerary of things that it all applies to, and why starting with the scale is a beautiful thing. And you can even message us on Project Forgive or even on Good Fat Life and say, I'm sleeping with my scale tonight. I'm going to learn to love the scale. Because it's just a belief system that gossip is bad, food is bad, the scale is bad. Even I have to throw in critical race theory because I work in diversity. Critical race theory is an amazing theory about systemic racism, and it's been politicized and all the information around it is just not true. Just like all the information around bad gossip is just not true.
Or about fat is just not true.
It's just not true.
Right.
And your understanding of forgiveness is just not true. Forgive and forget is a myth. Some things you can forgive and forget. Someone cuts me off on the freeway, I can forgive them immediately. My husband, not so much, because that's his thing, okay? It takes him a while to calm down. Not me. Other things, forgive and forget is not an option. You know, it's like, oh, how can I work with this? How can I process this? You know, childhood sexual abuse. That's not a forgive and forget conversation. That's a journey and a process, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you find your way through it.
You do.
Right.
Just like forgiving and forgetting that you've gained 30 pounds over these last 2 years. That you can't forgive and forget that. Especially when you can't pull up your jeans over your butt, right? You have physical proof that you can't forgive yourself. And what if you radically did, you know?
Right.
And it's a journey. It's not automatic. Fake it till you make it. I love fake it till you make it. And what I love about fake it till you make it is that you're acknowledging that you're faking it till you make it, okay? My husband and I had a fight last night, okay? And the topic doesn't matter. I woke up angry today, and I'm like, okay, am I going to go through a day of anger today over the stupid trigger that shows up? It rears its ugly head. Or am I going to go back in the bedroom, kiss him on the forehead, and tell him to have an amazing day? I don't feel like going and kissing him on the forehead at all. Okay? I don't. But I'm going to fake it till I make it. And then as I did that, the energy shifted between him and I. And you even heard we had a conversation today, just amazing connection. This old stuff that keeps us so busy, especially around food, around forgiveness, it just keeps us busy.
Right. And I think as we become more aware, right, you become aware, and it's like, do I want to have that energy? Is that the day I want? Is that how I want to start my day? Yeah. And to your point, it's like, okay, you might use different terms. Yeah. I'm just going to choose something else. Yeah. I always like to say, choose a different thought. Yeah. And it's like, I can choose a different thought. And looking at neurological pathways, because when we get into a rut, like I hate the scale, it's kind of like being in a car in the snow and the wheel just keeps turning in the snow and it digs deeper and deeper and deeper. And you decide to, you could put kitty litter in there to get the wheel up. You could put a board in there. You can actually get out of the frickin' car and go to a truck. And that's that neurological pathway different. And so that's why what I did with the scale, I'm like, I am so tired of sitting in this car with the wheel spinning. Get into a truck, man. I'll take my scale with me. Yeah. No, I love that because you're so right. And we're getting ready to really launch 60 Day Happy. Yeah. And it's around movement for 60 days because the science says that it takes 60 days or 58 days to be precise.
Actually, that's fantastic. Yep.
To get to that new neurological pathway.
Yes.
And so if you can, so maybe we do a challenge, love your scale for 58 days.
I love that. I love that.
What a great idea. Okay. All right. So do you want to talk about the apology you'll never receive?
I do.
Okay.
It's
so
my favorite thing. That's what we were nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for.
I know. And it is incredibly powerful. Oh, my gosh.
It really is. And it's what makes me the most happy. And I feel like that's what I do when I'm not worried about my weight.
Okay.
That I can cause this. And also in corporations. Because it was one man, I got to say his name, Reginald Humphrey from General Motors, saw this conversation of forgiveness in the workplace and just went, oh my goodness. Because it's non-religious. Can't bring religion in this. It's all about forgiving people that you work with, forgiving yourself for making mistakes. Because it's kind of like, let's say you get a job and you're up for a new promotion and you want the job really bad and someone's vying for that same promotion and you don't like them. Okay? Let's say they
Can't
get
relate at all.
Yeah. And let's say they get the job and now they're your boss.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
That's a version of a Chernobyl right there.
Right.
Because there's going to be all kinds of stuff that doesn't get unpacked that you got to deal with on a daily basis. And actually, you're shoveling it down every day to be productive. It's hard to be productive when there's a Chernobyl going on. And let me just say this about Chernobyl. I say that with grace and reverence. I'm a big history buff. I know a lot about Chernobyl. And so I'm not saying it in a flippant kind of way. Any documentaries on Chernobyl are exquisite. There's actually an HBO series that shows the story of Chernobyl that's so powerful. And so when I think of Chernobyl, I think of the man, I can't think of the doctor's name off the top of my head, that actually was unstoppable and letting the world know that this was really a big deal. And in my world, he's a hero. I have to look up his name. I can't remember his name, which I feel bad about, but I'll forgive myself about that. Right.
Yeah, okay.
So the apology you'll never receive is my version of standing up for something like this doctor did with Chernobyl and the impact of Chernobyl. And it started with my neighbor. I'm going to call him Bob. And he's the neighbor that as soon as I look at his face, I'm frickin' annoyed. Okay. We all have someone that as soon as you see them, you just go, ugh. This is Bob for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think about him when he's not around, so it's not obsessive or anything like that. But as soon as I see him, like, ugh. So go out to the mailbox. This is a perfect example of a daily occurrence with him, many different versions of it. But I'll go out and he'll go, good morning, Dr. Shawn. And as soon as I hear his voice, it sounds like that to me. It grates on my nerves. I'm just like, oh. I'm like, yeah, but Bob, it's 6 p.m. Okay, you've heard me share the story.
Right.
And he'll say, I know, but you look like you just got up. That's the kind of stuff he says. It's very socially weird. He has no social skills. It just annoys me. And the thing I had to look at is, what is my Chernobyl around him? Why do I get so annoyed with him? Why am I so angry? What's going on? And that's where the apology you'll never receive came from. And what I started to do was start practicing in my mind's eye, and he wasn't doing this. I practiced that he was apologizing to me. He was not apologizing. I was pretending that he was. So I'd say to myself, pretending I was Bob, saying, oh, Dr. Shawn, I'm so sorry. I struggle with social skills. I know you have empathy for that. I know as a trainer and a consultant, you deal with this all the time. I wish I had better skills. The truth is, I just really want you to like me. And if I were to really be honest, I want you to adore me. Because I do believe that.
Okay.
Yeah, I do with my heart and soul. Most people just want to belong and be adored. I believe that about the human race in general. Right. And so as soon as I'd start saying that apology to myself, I'd soften. I'd start getting empathy toward him. Now he does not annoy me at all. Well, like once in a while, it's way out there, and I just have to remind myself it's all good. It's a practice that I would practice with him. And so this apology that you'll never receive has become one of our signature tools that we do when we train, because the way that our brain works and neurological pathways, we treat it like it's real.
Right.
Okay.
You don't know the difference.
Your brain doesn't know the difference. Right. And it's just like if I say, think of a lemon, you can already taste the lemon in your mouth, or a pickle. I think of pickle ranch dip that I get at the Stamps Club, which I love the pickle. I just love that. Okay,
got it.
And the cauliflower stalks, which I love too. Give a shameless plug. They don't pay me to do that, but they're just great. And we start changing our neurological pathways around forgiveness and around people that annoy us. And when you start doing that, you actually have access to start seeing what's really going on. You know, you and I were talking about some private stuff, right? Like, what's really going on here for me? What am I not seeing that this just gets such a charge? Because our charges are ours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
90%, my mantra is 90% past, 10% present. 90% past, 10% present. Because we keep redoing the same behaviors, finding the same people to replay our issues until they're complete. Right? We do that. There's lots of research around it. And this is an unpacking process, especially around neurological pathways and pretending that someone's apologizing even though they're not. And that's how you find grace. That's how you find emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. The most exquisite leaders in the world have this capacity to do some kind of process like this. I've become masterful at it. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes not so much. Just ask my husband. That's where I struggle the most, right? In our most intimate relationships. So that's the apology you'll never receive.
Well, and I'm just, as you're talking, I'm like, wow, because I've known you, 10 years or so, and I've probably done it a couple dozen times. And I didn't realize the impact. I have different pathways in my brain because of going through that process.
Yes.
And I'm just now, like, the lights going on. That's been huge in my journey in creating those different pathways.
Yes.
Because the trigger comes up, right? And that's not perfect. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying, at least there's an awareness. It's like, oh, what's going on here? Let's really let's choose to dig deeper into this rather than just let my ego fly off the handle.
Exactly. And that's the same process with the scale.
Yeah.
What am I avoiding? What can't I be with about 187 pounds? What's going on there? And even this morning when I woke up angry at my husband for the fight last night, okay, 90% of that is mine because has a big feeling. His offense was only 10%. My feeling is 90%. So I was able to go to the new truck and say, okay, I'm going to fake it till I make it. I'm going to go and say good morning and give him a hug and a kiss. I know this isn't ideal. I know it doesn't match with my feelings at the moment. And my feelings are that of a 4-year-old. Can I be that honest with myself? And I am not 4. And I have many more skills than a 4-year-old in that instant gratification place, in that instant feeling place, in that I gotta tell you how I feel place. Because sometimes we confuse, I gotta be authentic and honest with you, brutally honest, with immaturity, actually.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
Yeah. No, oh my gosh.
This is a great conversation.
Okay, it is a great conversation. And so that said, I think we have really given so many wonderful kind of things to think about.
Yes.
And tools and ideas. So if there's just like, I usually,
let me bottom line it.
Yeah.
Right.
Usually I say, how would you?
Bottom line it. Practice the mantra. I forgive myself for not forgiving myself. Water, water, water. I don't care how much you drink. I don't care how much you complain to yourself, how much you got to pee. Just put water is one of the best things you can do for your body and your skin and your health. And your skin is 90% of your body. It's so important. Get on the scale. Just do it. Do it. Face every shame, horrible, gross feeling. Because when you can be with how much you weigh every day, you could frickin' be with anything. Okay? All right?
That is so powerful.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, right. Okay.
Get on, and then the last one, practice understanding, accepting the apology you'll never receive, which goes with faking it till you make it, allowing yourself to get out of the car that's twirling in the snow and go into a new truck. And even just when I think of like, I'm going to go get into a new truck. Okay. I'm going to do a shameless plug for Stellantis because I think they're amazing. I'm going to get into my Jeep and let it be a pink Jeep because I love pink. And I just think of that and I feel happy.
Right.
Faking it till you make it so you can go to another place, a pivot point, or, pivot's been overused with COVID and all that, whatever. But those are some juicy things to think about because ultimately it's up to you. Ultimately, you get to choose.
You get to choose.
You can be 4 or you can be 58 or whatever age you are.
Right. And the joy is at the age that you are, not the
Yes.
4-year-old.
The joy is at the age you're at, the weight you're at.
Right.
Because if you are not happy at the weight you're at, you will not be happy losing 20 pounds. You won't. You'll think you are, but you won't.
That's a great point, too.
You won't.
It's
Nope.
because there'll be something else.
It'll be something else.
Right.
Something else to fixate on, to keep you busy so you don't have to do your dreams or focus on the things you really want. Because a lot of times we're scared to focus on what we really want, whether it's to really quit your job and start your business, whether it's to launch
Go
a
work with
magazine
kids,
like you
yeah.
did, whether it's to dive into my in-laws because I've been so distant with them, whether it's to generate with my grandchildren, whether it's to actually speak up at a business meeting in a way you never have before. Woo, risky stuff. Risky stuff. Yeah.
Right. Or call somebody to call in a card because you feel like you're just going to.
Yes.
Just feel it like it would be meaningful to do that and
Yeah.
powerful.
And I'm going to just say what we did today. We went way out into Miracle Zone. I'm going to say Comerica Bank because whether we work with them or not with the National Arab
Right.
Orchestra, which we're both really active in, it was the most delicious, authentic, loving meeting.
Oh my gosh.
It was-
just, if that's all it was an amazing morning.
Yeah.
Right.
And this man that we met, Hassan, that works in the Middle Eastern community, he's going to be a lifelong friend
Yeah.
and business colleague, regardless of what they support or don't support. And isn't that, and it might even be that we don't work with Comerica and they get us to another place to help us. It's in that juiciness, it's in the joy, it's in the relationship building, the authenticity, the intimacy. And when you're busy, focused on your weight, focused on how much you don't weigh or how much you weigh or that you ate the Reese's peanut butter cup last night, there's no room. You get full. You get full on that obsessive stuff. And how do you empty your brain so you can actually let the joy in, right?
Oh my gosh. I love
Yeah,
you.
I love you too.
I love this
This was great.
conversation, and I'm just so grateful. So thank you for everything you've shared with us and with our listeners today. And yes, and so we're going to take a little break. And I am going to do a shout out for one of our sponsors,
Beautiful.
for Snedicor's Cleaners. And they have, so a little story. So a colleague of mine came to my house the other day to pick up something, and my cleaning had just been dropped off. And she's like, "What? Your cleaning your dry cleaning just shows up?" And I say, "Yes, I just put the bag out on the doorstep Tuesdays and Fridays, and my cleaning shows up on the other days, or on Tuesdays and Fridays." And we had this meeting this morning that was important, and I was not stressed a bit about what to wear because I knew I could go to my closet
Love
and
it.
my clothes were all ironed, pressed, and ready to go.
Beautiful.
And there is something magic about that. It's self-care because it takes a big stress away. So thank you to Jim Gilligan and all of the people at Snedicor's Cleaners for being there and doing the work that you do.
Beautiful.
So,
Love it.
so until
Great,
next
good
time.
gossip. Great, good
Yeah.
gossip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're amazing. So, okay, thank you again for being here.
My absolute joy.